Hello, and welcome to Factorio. I am Dorthek, and if you're new to this channel, welcome. This is the first episode in a Factorio series designed to teach new players how to play the game, and will serve as a walkthrough all the way from the start to the launch of your first rocket and maybe a little beyond. If you're not new to the channel, you may be a little bit confused by why there's a new episode 1. Factorio came out of early release in August of 2020 with the release of version 1.00, you can see that up here, and is now officially out of early access. However, I started recording this series back when Factorio was in early access, first under version 0.17, then under version 0.18. Now, unfortunately, I do not have time to re-record the entire series under 1.0, nor is there really reason to. Factorio 0.17, from the point where I started playing it, and 0.18 and 1.0 have essentially the same gameplay. The recipes are the same, the concepts are the same, the techniques are the same. The only changes that occurred have been things like graphics. Some of the images and icons have changed, and some of the UI elements have changed. So everything recorded so far is still applicable. What I decided to do was retitle the series, record new parts to episode 1, and the series will update from 0.17 to 0.18 to 1.0 in the, naturally, as I recorded it, and none of it should really matter too much. I do call out at certain points which version I'm on. You can ignore that nowadays. Everything in here works for 1.0. So let's get started. First thing you need to do is get Factorio installed. There are basically two ways to do so. If you purchase the game from Steam, you can just install it using Steam like normal. However, if you purchased the game before it was originally released, and you hit play and you're still playing an earlier version of Factorio, not 1.0, but 0.17 or 0.18, it means you need to right-click on Factorio, go to Properties, go over to the Betas tab, and change it to None, opt out of all beta programs. Or you can select 1.0 here manually, but I would just do None, and that way you'll get any updates to 1.0 as they happen. There used to be an option here, latest experimental, and that's what those of us that were on the experimental branch ran for a long time. And if you had that selected, it would not upgrade you to 1.0 because 1.0 is not an experimental. So if you're having trouble finding 1.0, that's how you fix it. The second way to to install Factorio is from the Factorio website. You can purchase the game directly from the publisher, or if you purchased on Steam, you can link your Steam account to your Factorio account and be able to download it from here. To do it, you go to factorio.com, click Game, Download, and the installer is right here. Windows, Mac, Linux, etc. You can also download older releases if you want to play one of the older versions for some reason. The advantage to downloading them from here is that, especially if you download the zip file rather than the installer, is that you can install it in non-standard places, which lets you put your mod folders, your save game folders, your configurations in a non-standard place, and sometimes that can be very handy. But once it's installed, you're all set. Plays just like any other game. So, here we are at the main menu. If this is your first time playing, you're not going to have this continue button. Before we get started, I want to take a quick look at the settings menu over here. Graphics, controls, sounds, those are all things I leave up to you, depending on you, on what your computer is capable of supporting, how you like your hot buttons assigned. There are a lot of hot buttons in this game. You can remap them if you wish. However, I will be mentioning the buttons in their default state, so if you do remap, just be aware of that. What I do want to draw your attention to is the interface button. Unfortunately, I don't have a default version of this to show you, but there are a few things that I want to draw your attention to. The first here is Alt Mode. I think by default the bottom two are not checked. Go ahead and check them, the Show Combinator settings and the Show Beacon modules. That may not make any sense to you right now, but it will later in the series. Over here, where it has active quick bars, I like to set this to the maximum, which is 4. Again, we'll see what that means in the game, but it's basically how many hotbars you have. By default, I believe it's 2. I like having as many as I can. Most of the rest of this you can leave as default or use my settings. Over here, show tips and tricks on game load and show tutorial notifications may be useful for you. I have those off because I don't really need them at this point. But that's up to you. Most of the rest, like I said, copy my settings or change or use the default. Down here is where we would install mods if we had any mods. You can see I have a few installed but not checked, which means they're not going to be in the game. We're playing this vanilla. Base mod is part of the main game and it can't be unchecked. So let's get started. We go to single player, new game. There's a few options. You can run through the tutorial if you wish. I've honestly never played it, but it may be worth your time. But what we're going to do in this series is free play, which is what most people do when they play this game. So we hit next, we will go to our map generator settings. The first thing I usually do is hit the preview button. You'll notice it gives me a spoiler alert. Some people prefer not to click it, but I like to be able to see where I'm playing. So this is our randomly generated map. The starting point is right in the center here. And you can randomize it by clicking this random seed button, which changes the seed and just re-rolls the map. The seed, though, is only the starting point. There are quite a few settings that affect what is done with that seed. This tab controls the resources, frequency, size, and richness of each of the resources. The resources we have are iron, which is this light blue. Here, copper, which is this kind of orangish. Stone, which is this beigeish color. Coal, which is black. Uranium, which is this nuclear green. And crude oil, which are these purple spots right here. They're kind of hard to see right there. There's some more right there. And, we can just say, okay, well, how big do we want our patches? How frequent do we want our patches? How rich, which is not visible on the screen, but has to do with how long they last before running out. Obviously, the higher the frequency, size, and richness, the easier the game will be. We have terrain, which affects how much water is present. We have a lot of water, very little water. And scale controls whether you get lots of small water features or a smaller number of very large water features, which are not even visible on this map, but if we re-roll, we'll be able to see it there. Big seas, oceans, etc. Same thing with trees. You can have more tree coverage, less tree coverage. Now that's a forest right there, the dark green. The cliffs, which are these lines here. You also have control over enemies. Now, the Factorio world has aliens, and the aliens are hostile. These red splotches are the alien bases. You can have more or less of them. You can have bigger or smaller ones. The starting area, where you start, will not have aliens in them, and you can change the size of the starting area. You can make it big so there's no aliens anywhere near where you start, or you can make it quite small so that aliens start right on top of you. One other item to mention is enemy expansion. Enemy expansion controls whether the aliens build more of their bases. So if enemy expansion is on, over time they will build more bases, including in areas that you've already cleared but are not occupying. I find enemy expansion to be somewhat frustrating because you'll have cleared an area and you'll come back half an hour later and there's aliens there again. You have to clear it again. However, many people like having it on because they like the challenge of more aliens. For this playthrough, we will not use enemy expansion, but you're certainly welcome to experiment with that. Now, one of the neat things with Factorio is that a lot of things can be shared. If you want to share a map with someone, you have two basic options. You can share the seed. We can cut and paste this with Control-C, Control-V. But if all you give someone is the seed, then they also have to set all of these sliders and options exactly the same. The other thing you can do is trade the map exchange string. So you can import or export the map exchange string. And I have one prepared for us, a map that I found that I liked, and a link to it is down below the video. So this is the map exchange string we're going with. We're using Railworld settings over here. We do have enemy expansion turned off. And this is our starting world. We have our basic resources right here. We have some water, and we will have kind of these natural choke points that we can use to block off the aliens later in the game, which will make defending a little bit easier. So once you're happy with your map, you hit play, and the game will start. Now, new in 1.0 is this crash land sequence. This is the Factorio free play. Your task is to launch a rocket into space. You will need to research advanced technologies in order to unlock the rocket silo. Start small, work your way up with automation, and don't forget to protect yourself from the natives. And hit tab to continue. I don't know why it's tab. As far as I recall, tab does absolutely nothing in the rest of the game, but here you have to hit tab. So, this is our little guy right here in the middle. We can run around with the WASD keys. We can zoom in and out with the mouse scroll wheel. And our vision is limited. That's as far out as I can zoom in. And in previous versions, before 1.0, you started with some resources. You still start with those resources, but now they're inside these crashed items. So if I mouse over these kind of engine-y bits here, over on the right it says Spaceship Wreck Big, and there's a little icon that shows an iron panel and says 1. There are two ways for me to get it out of there. I could click on it and drag the panel into my inventory, and that's perfectly fine. The other way we can do it, here's a Spaceship Wreck Medium, is we can hold the right mouse button over it, and you can see the scroll bar down below, and that removes the item, removes the wreck piece, and adds what was inside it to our inventory. So now we have 2 iron plates. Now, if a particular piece of wreckage is empty, you don't get anything out of deconstructing it that way, except clearance, because this is our coal patch. We're going to want to build things here, and these items are in our way. You can see they prevent movement, and we can't place anything there. So we do want to clear it out. The big spaceship here holds 8 ammunition magazines, and as soon as we pick it up, it'll put it right into our pistol. And in this way, we can pick up all of these bits of wreckage, clear them out, and if they contain anything useful, we will get it. There's 3 more iron plates, 2 more, 1 more. And there we go. Now we've cleared out the wreck and recovered all the items that we could from it. If you hit the M button, that brings up your map view. As you can see, it's restricted. It's much smaller than what we could see in the preview. And you can also see this inner square. So the inner square is the area that we personally can see from where we are. So if we zoom in within that square, we can see the details of the terrain. But if we try to zoom in over here, we don't have anything. So we have a rough idea of the outer area and detailed view of the inner area. The only way to get a detailed view is either to physically be in that area or to place a radar, which is something we will do. A few more things with settings. This is your toolbars, and you can see I have 4 rows. By default, you only have 1 or 2. This is something that can be changed by hitting Escape, Settings, Interface, and over here you have Active Quick Bars, and I have that set to 4, which is the maximum. I'm a fan of that. The important thing is whichever bar is at the top, these buttons are mapped to your number keys: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. That's very handy for things that you're going to place a lot. You also have a bunch of buttons over here. By default, you won't have them all, but if you click a little eye, you can put check marks to turn them on. I have them all on, which is perfectly fine. Not all of them are useful now, they will all be useful later on. Down in the bottom right corner, you have your weaponry. You can have up to 3 weapons, but what we start with is a pistol and 10 magazines of ammo. This little box is where you put armor. We don't have any armor. Top right corner, you have a mini-map, and then you have some buttons that take you places, and you can also go there with hotkeys. We will get to those later. So one of the buttons up here is achievements. The achievement that we're aiming for is this right here: smoke me a kip or I'll be back for breakfast, which is to say finish the game. And by finish the game, we mean launch a rocket. Important note, if you turn off biters, you will disable achievements. You cannot get any achievements if there are no biters on the screen, on the map. So, how do we get started? Well, we can see we just crashed on this barren planet. We don't have much stuff. If we hit the E button, the E button brings up our inventory and handcrafting screen. So on the left is our inventory, and this is what we currently own. And on the right is the crafting screen. This is things that we could potentially build right now. If we have the material to build it, there'll be a little number that tells us how many we can build. If we don't have the materials, it's going to be grayed out. Some things will be red. Red things cannot be made by hand. You have to have some sort of machine. Anything that's not red, you can handcraft. You can just make yourself. Crafting stuff is broken down into 4 categories. Logistics, which mostly deals with, moving things around, storing things, that kind of thing. Production, where you actually make stuff. Intermediate products, this is things that don't have any purpose on them in and of themselves, but are used to make other things. And then combat. So, as you can see, if we mouse over, say, the firearm magazine, there's a lot of information there. The little stopwatch says 1. That means it takes 1 second to craft this recipe, and the ingredients are 4 iron plates. So we have 8, which is why we can make 2. We're not going to make them, because that's not the most important thing right now, but we could. So the first thing we need to do is start gathering some resources. This is a very resource-intensive game, and it is important to get them. There's a couple ways to gather resources. We're right now standing in the middle of our coal patch, and if we right-click on the coal patch, you can see we will start mining coal. Hey look, we've got some coal. This is kind of slow. A better way to do it is to use a mining drill. We start with what's called a burner mining drill, which generates, which will do it automatically as long as you give it some fuel, like, say, coal. So the first thing we want to do is get our iron production up, because iron is really important. We're going to mine a little bit of coal, maybe 10 pieces of it. And then we're going to run over to the iron patch. This is what we're going to do is we're going to take this drill. You can hit E to open the inventory, click on it, hit E again to close the inventory, and that's our burning mining drill. You'll notice it has an arrow. Drills spit their output out where the arrow is, and you can hit the R key to rotate. So we're going to set this one to go right here, kind of on the edge of the patch. And now we see it's blinking a little fuel icon because we didn't give it any fuel. Well, that's fair enough. We're going to give it half of the coal we have, and the way we do half is you hold down Control and right-click. Control left-click would give it all of it, Control right-click will give it half of it. And now it's running. But all it does is put the stuff on the ground. We can pick it up by right-clicking on it or hitting F while standing on it, but that's not really useful. I'm going to right-click to pick this back up. What we have now is iron ore, and we can't do anything with iron ore. What we want is iron plates, and as you can see, iron plates are made from iron ore, but you have to have a furnace. Well, as it happens, we have a furnace. So we're going to drop our mine back down with the arrow pointing up. We're going to take our furnace and put it right next to it. So it will spit out into the furnace. We're going to put half of our coal, a little more than half in here, and the rest in here. And now it will mine and spit this out, and you can see it's going to produce iron plates. It can store a certain number internally, but once this is filled up, it will stop working, which is fine. Because the truth is, we're about to run out of coal. The coal we put in there isn't going to last long. So let's go get some more. Now, we'd really like to automate this, which means we need to build some more mining drills, and we need to build some more ovens to be able to produce more of the iron. Let's get 10 more coal. And then we will take a look at what it takes to build a mining drill. We go back to production and mouse over iron drill. You can see it says we need 3 iron plates, 3 iron gear wheels, and a stone furnace. Now, you can see that the bottom 2 are in red, and that says that we don't have enough material. If we go over to the intermediate products, you'll find the iron gear wheels, and they're made from iron plate. So we have to make those first, but we just don't have enough iron yet to do both. If you look at the very bottom of the recipe, it tells us the raw ingredients. The raw ingredients are 9 plates, well, we have 8 right now, and 5 stone. So, if we go and pick up the plates from here, and you can open it and click on this, but the fast way to pick stuff up is to hold down Control and then click on it, and that'll get all the plates out of it. And then we're going to refuel this. Now, the burner mining drill uses coal much faster than the furnace, so we want more in there. And we had some stone somewhere. We can look at the map. Stone is this area right here. We're going to go down here and mine some stone so that we can make the intermediate products we need. And if we don't remember, we can mouse back over the burner mining drill and see that we need 5 stone. Well, we just got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now the miner drill is shows us a 1. But we actually want 2 mining drills, and you will see in a moment why we want 2 of them. So let's get a little bit more. We're going to go for 10. There we go. Now we can make 2 miner drills. Now here's the interesting thing. As you see, there's intermediate products, iron gears and stone furnaces. You don't have to, when you're handcrafting, you don't have to make them one at a time. If you look in the bottom left corner of the screen, that's your handcrafting queue. I can left click on the burner drill, and you will see that it shows us that it's first going to make the gears and the furnace, and then the drill itself. And we want to make a second one. And then we want to head back over to our coal. And here's why we like to do it this way. Because we can set one up facing this way, and then we can set up a second one facing that way. We'll need a little bit more coal. And now, if we give coal to one of them, it will drill and fill the other one. And that will drill and fill itself back, and we will get progress. So that's pretty good. That's our first automation. We just automated feeding those drills. Let's go back over to the iron. We've run out of fuel, which is fine. We'll give it some more. We also have some iron ore we picked up. We can put that in there. And Control left click puts all of it in. And we can Control left click from the outside to pick up all our plates. So, we have accomplished a little bit. We've got a little bit of iron producing and a little bit of coal producing. I think this is probably the stopping point for this episode. I will see you next time. I am Dorthak, and why don't you go ahead and try one yourself? And don't forget to save.